Hey everybody, it's Ronnie Thompson. We're here with the next cycle of life in our life cycle videos. I have here today two of my favorite clients that are in the phase of the early to mid 60s, pre-retirement, heading into retirement. So without further ado, why don't you two tell us a little bit about yourselves, introduce yourselves, and tell us.
So I'm John. I'm a university professor, and I'm beginning to enter retirement.
Fantastic.
Okay, and I am Mary Ann, John's wife. I am also sort of semi-retired, do general human resources consulting, but
Fantastic.
right now just part-time.
Fantastic. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about some of the things that we've been talking about and what we've been engaging in our meetings and our discussions. And first question that I have for you both, and each of you answer, is talk a little bit about some of the things that were worrisome, some things that were questions that you had as you are in this phase, kind of thinking about entering retirement and some of those issues.
I guess first I wouldn't characterize them as worrisome, because we had been approaching this for some years and preparing for this over an extended period. But the questions that arose were, well, how do we do a distribution? I mean, how do we start withdrawing from our investments? Should I be taking Social Security now or wait a few more years and play with those numbers? What's the best way to handle covering my own health care and the like? So those were some of the questions that arose as we approached retirement.
Yeah, those are usually pretty normal.
Yeah.
How about you, Marianne? Anything?
Would we have enough money to retire at the age we are now? And how would we manage that through the rest of our lives? Both of us have parents who are live to their 90s and that, and so when you look at that, do we have enough money to last 30, maybe 40 years? And along with the healthcare costs, both have parents who spent time in nursing homes. Would we be able to handle that without being an undue burden on our children?
So some of the things that you brought up, I mean, obviously one of the greatest concerns I think for retirees are outliving your money, right? You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Other aspects are things like taxation, right? I mean, working through things like, pre-tax accounts, IRAs versus Roth IRAs, tax-free money as an example. So kind of give a little bit of feedback to some of the processes, right? Some of the things that we've gone through, some of the things that stuck out as far as whether it's technology, e-money software, some of those things that we've gone through that you remember through that process that has been as most beneficial to you.
Again, it's not something that happened all at once when we decided that we're going to be retiring. It was things that we planned ahead of time, managing what our risks are going to be. So over the last 5 years approaching this point, we modified our risk of what we were willing to bear, moving into retirement. We took advice from you about how to move some money to get some more flexibility out of what we can do with our money at this point. That's
Fantastic.
what comes to mind.
No, that's great. How about e-money? How has e-money been beneficial to you?
E-money has been very good. I've been the one in our relationship has always handled paying the bills and making sure we have the cash flow and everything that we need for our everyday lives. And I've used Quicken a lot, so when you mentioned that you had e-money, I set myself up in there, and just gradually over time I've used it for more and more things, linking more and more accounts to it. So it is just convenient to be able to see everything all in one place and
fantastic.
have a good idea of what's happening.
No, that's fantastic.
So one other thing that was useful approaching retirement is that even early on we began to learn how we could use the money that we have, use some of the return on our investments in order to protect ourselves for this phase. Mary Ann mentioned long-term care. I mean, that's a policy that we have now that's being funded largely through the investments themselves that we would not have been able to do otherwise.
Oh, that's exactly right. So getting into that phase or that next season of life in retirement, what are some of the things you look forward to most?
The grandchild, and more to come perhaps, and traveling. Yeah, boy, traveling these days, the immediate pandemic, is something that's become quite a missed treasure. And so that's something we'd like to return to, traveling more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys very much. I think, a couple things that we've talked about that I think are important subject matters. Medical insurance, that's a big one. Outliving your money. At the end of the day, it's really about consultation. It's really about having education and being empowered. These two are incredibly smart, as you can probably tell. So it's really just giving them the tools and the information to guide them in being able to make the biggest decisions. And I think the other piece that I mentioned is the therapeutic and psychological side of retirement, right? That is a side of the coin to retirement that most people actually don't think about. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
I tell people it's two sides of the coin. It's the numbers where I think most people spend most of their time, right? The numbers look right, versus the psychological side, right? And to a degree, I can't help with that, right? I mean, that's something that falls on you, right? And obviously, being family people and obviously your religion and your faith, which is something that is very important to the both of you, and being actively involved in your faith as Catholics in your church. I think are aspects that make that season of your life enjoyable, right? So, anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, absolutely.
it's good. It's been a good partnership.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we very much appreciate all the advice you've given us over the years, and I think because of that advice, we're in a very comfortable position, and we feel very confident about our future.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Take care.